US companies spend an average of $1 million per year on staff training and certification. For larger multinationals, that sum can run into millions. So choosing the right technology to manage the training function is critical, but all too often businesses are finding their investment is not producing the right results. So where do things go wrong? And how can companies better leverage technology to run a smooth, cost-effective training operation? That's what we're going to discuss with John Peebles, founder and CEO of Administrate, a training management platform provider. John, the inefficiency in training, how big a problem is this?
It's a massive problem, and it's a massive problem that costs billions of dollars for large companies. Let's say you're a large multinational company and you've invested a lot in making sure that folks are learning via e-learning, but you also have the majority of your training, and this is typical, through the classroom. That classroom training is very difficult to manage. It is very difficult to schedule. It's very difficult to scale. And you will have all of the activities and data of all of that training scattered all around the world. And in order to understand what's going on, you've got to collate it somehow. You've got to work to put it all together. That's very time consuming and expensive. And ultimately, it doesn't get done.
How have we got into this situation?
Fundamentally, most of the tech spend and investment in our industry has been on e-learning tools, how to get classroom training moved into the cloud and self-paced and so forth. But the problem is that students like you and me, we don't learn best through e-learning. And in fact, if you want to train somebody to do their job, you want to put them in a classroom, give them hands-on opportunities. That unfortunately means a lot more logistics are at play. You've got to understand who needs to be where and why and when and so forth. And that is very inefficient, and it's very difficult and time-consuming. And so what happens is all of the investment that we've made into tech is not really paying off in the ways that people want it to, and it's not moving those business metrics. And in order to really train people well, you've got to invest a lot more into more people. And that's a difficult bargain for a lot of companies.
So is that all it's about, investing in people? How do businesses get this process right?
I think it's like any business function. The folks that are running it need to have infrastructure that is purpose-built to help them do their jobs. If you don't have the infrastructure, you're not going to get the results, and you're going to throw people at it, and that's always inefficient and expensive. So really getting that foundational layer of tech right is what we see as a prerequisite for running a really stellar training program that can move business metrics and accomplish business goals.
Tell me more about your solution and how it works.
Fundamentally, we think of ourselves as learning infrastructure for large multinational corporations. And what I mean by that is we will come in and solve a few problems for you. We'll give you that system of record that the training team can manage all of their classroom and training operations within. That frees up a huge amount of time for the team that they can then invest in other things. Then we will help get everything integrated. We'll integrate all the different 15, 20 different systems that the training team has invested in over the last decade or so, get them plowing that data back into Administrate and in one spot, and then that means that they can become very analytical and start making better decisions with that data. Imagine trying to schedule a training somewhere in Egypt. You need to understand what classrooms are available. You probably don't own those classrooms. They're probably conference rooms that are shared with the rest of the business. Just understanding which conference rooms are available and which instructors are not on holiday is a very time-consuming, laborious process. We'll automate all of that for you. Then once we've done that, we'll start integrating all your other products through technical interfaces. That means that you can now look at data all across your ecosystem, and will also integrate with the rest of the business's tech stack. So that's how companies can see where the problems are in their business and marry that up with training data. And then you can go and start to be part of the solution to fix those problems.
Can you give me an example of a client that's used your services and what they've achieved through it?
One of my favorite examples is a large boat manufacturer. They produce pleasure craft along with boats for the military, and they were growing very fast. They wanted to double the size of their plant and double their headcount within 18 months. That's a huge job. And so what we did is we helped the training team through implementing Administrate hook our software up to their manufacturing resource planning software that drives the assembly line. And that meant that the training team had insight into where problems were happening within the business. One example is they were hiring a lot of people. These people would be going through the training program and they would run into an obstacle or not do very well, and they would quit because they thought, oh, we're just going to be fired anyway. The training team could go in, figure out that that was a problem, make sure that the folks knew that fiberglassing the hull of a boat is not something that everybody does well initially, and they could solve that problem. That reduced their involuntary turnover pretty dramatically. The second area where they could go in and pinpoint problems was where are there mistakes being made on the assembly line. The training team could figure out, is it a problem of certification? Is it a problem of instruction? Are maybe the tools out of date? Whatever. They could go in and intervene, and that meant that they were on the forefront driving this company forward towards its goals and not in a reactive phase like they had been before Administrate.
So what are your 3 takeaways from our conversation?
I think the first takeaway is this is not the training team's fault, right? They have invested in tech almost always, and they have tried to do the right things, and it's a very, very difficult problem to solve. The second takeaway would be there is a solution where you can go out and find technical infrastructure that will support you in the roles and the things that you need to be doing. And then that will lead on to the third takeaway, which is once you have the right foundation to solve problems, you can become very analytical. You can go out and you can pinpoint problems and figure out what you're going to do, and then you can become part of that team that is driving the business forward.
That was John Peebles from Administrate.